Hi everyone, Inat Kessler here with a new video tutorial, and today I'm going to show you two mixed media notebook designs. How to cover your notebook cover with mixed media techniques. So I'm going to start with my first notebook and I'm going to cover it with some white gesso. This is going to prime the surface for any material paint that I want to add later. So this is like a base coat to later continue. So I'm going to cover both sides of the cover, and I'm going to add 2 coats of gesso and make sure they're dry before I continue. Then I'm going to add a little bit of stenciling and sprays. You can do that with acrylic paints if you don't have sprays, and any kind of pattern will work. I just want to make sure that I get some interesting patterns on the cover. So I did the first pattern. I'm going to change color and change patterns and continue adding them to the cover. Always make sure that everything is dry before you continue. And now my third pattern with a third color, and I'm using colors that will create contrast, not similar colors. So once that's dry, I'm just going to spray some paint without any stencil, just to add a bright color. Make it drip a little bit. I really like this effect. Now I'm going to add a little bit of gelatos, which are kind of a crayon. They react with water, so I can smear them with my fingers. You can do this with regular crayons as well, or acrylic paints. Now I want to add some details to the front of the cover, so I have a few resin embellishments, some buttons. Actually, any type of embellishments will work, and since you're working on the cover, on the front cover, they can be 3D, they can be bulky, you can add dimension. So I'm creating a cluster with these embellishments. Next, I want to add a frame. This is the inside of the frame. And some more embellishments. You can use whatever you have in your stash to decorate the front of your notebook cover. I have here some plastic and metal embellishments that I'm going to add, some buttons. And I'm clustering them together. And finally, I'm just going to add a quote. You can add a title, a quote, whatever you want. The purpose of art is washing the dust of daily life of your souls. This is by Pablo Picasso. So this is the first notebook cover. Pretty easy, but with a really cool, colorful, and fun effect. Of course, you can keep on adding embellishments. The idea is to know when to stop. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to stop, but at some point you should. These are alcohol inks that are dripping away. Again, optional. You don't really have to if you don't want to. But that's another idea of another material and technique that you can use. This is the finished notebook cover. Lots of details, really fun layers, cool embellishments with a lot of texture and color. Really like how it turned out. So for the next notebook cover, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I took it apart because it had those metal binding. So I just took the cover. I'm going to spray it with some sprays. And here I'm going to use a really cool technique with crayons. First, I want to make sure that my cover is painted. So I'm going to use again gelatos around the frame, around the edges of the cover. Just 2 colors. And since they react with water, I'm using a baby wipe to spread them around and blend them together. And for this notebook cover, I'm going to take all kinds of old craft materials and put them on the cover. Now these are really regular crayons, the one that you find for kids in this craft store. I'm going to attach them to my cover, and then I'm going to melt them. You're going to see it's a really cool effect. Just breaking them to make them a little bit smaller, but this is a really cool effect that you should try. So I painted with them a little bit before. Now I'm attaching them with white glue. Then I'm going to take my heat tool and simply heat them until they start to melt and drip. And this is really, really cool. You can do this on canvas, on a box. Just keep doing it until you see that the crayon material starts to melt and see? And starts to flow, becomes liquid. That is so cool. And then I'm going to do the other side as well. This is such a really cool technique. And then after it's completely dry, I can go ahead and add my other materials. So I want to add some old brush, some popsicle stick, a pencil, all kinds of art material. I'm going to glue them to my cover. They're all used, so it's going to be really neat on the cover. A little pencil from IKEA. Then I'm going to add some texture with modeling paste and a stencil, creating a pattern, a raised pattern. This is a sponge, an old sponge. The popsicle stick, just adding used materials. It's going to look really fun, because this is the cover of an art journal, so I want it to be very artsy. Just adding a little bit of ink and a little bit of white paint around the cover just to give it a frame, and a little bit more paint, just a few blobs of paint around the cover. A little bit of yellow. Now I'm going to add the word art to the front of my notebook. I also added a little bit of paint and a little bit of ink and stamping on the letters. These are chipboard letters, very large letters. So I'm adding them as a top layer. This is really cool because you can still see all the melted crayons on the bottom and all the paint and the texture that we added. Then I'm going to add the word journal. So basically this is the second mixed media notebook cover idea that you can do, and of course you can mix and match the techniques and the ideas that I showed you. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on the little bell icon to be notified when I upload a new video, so you won't miss anything and you'll be able to follow all the tutorials and make all the projects. So I really hope you liked this tutorial. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next time.